I never thought my marriage would come to this. I had always believed in loyalty, in the kind of love that lasts through thick and thin. Eric and I had been together for 6 years, building a life that, from the outside, seemed perfect. We had a nice home, stable jobs, and what I thought was a deep connection. But looking back now, I realized that I was blind to the cracks forming beneath the surface. It started as an innocent conversation, or so I thought. One night, after dinner, we were lying in bed when Eric turned to me with an unreadable expression. His fingers traced lazy circles on my arm, and then, out of nowhere, he asked, "How do you feel about being with another man?" I laughed, assuming he was joking. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what if I shared you with someone else?" The casual way he said it sent a chill through me. My stomach twisted in confusion and unease. I turned to face him, searching for any sign that this was some sort of twisted joke, but his face was serious. "Why would you want that?" My voice was barely above a whisper. "I just think it would be exciting," he said. "A new experience for both of us." "A new experience? For who?"
Him or me?
The thought made me sick. We had never discussed anything like this before, and I had no desire to be with anyone else. I had given everything to our marriage, believing we were enough for each other. "Who would it be?" I asked, more out of disbelief than actual curiosity. He hesitated before finally saying a name I didn't recognize. "Darnell." I frowned. "Who's that?" "A guy from my gym," Eric admitted. "He's different from me."
Strong.
Experienced. "I think you'd like him." My heart pounded in my chest. This wasn't just some random fantasy. Eric had already thought this through.
He had picked someone.
The realization made my stomach turn. I shook my head.
"No.
I don't want that." Eric sighed, rubbing his temples as if he were the one frustrated. "Just think about it," he said. "I wouldn't suggest it if I didn't think it could be good for us." There was something unsettling about the way he spoke. He wasn't just entertaining an idea, he wanted this. Desperately. That night, I barely slept. My mind kept circling back to why he would even bring this up. Had he lost attraction to me? Was this his way of telling me he wanted to sleep with someone else?
Was he already cheating?
The next day, Eric acted as if nothing had happened, but I couldn't shake the conversation. And then, just when I thought it was over, he brought it up again. This time, he had already made plans. He told me Darnell was interested, that it wouldn't have to mean anything, that it was just a bit of fun. I should have walked away right then. I should have screamed at him, told him how disgusting it was that he even asked. But instead, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I said yes. The moment the word left my lips, I regretted it. But Eric's face lit up with excitement, as if I had just given him the greatest gift. He kissed me, murmuring about how this would bring us closer, how he never pushed me to do anything I didn't want to.
Lies.
Deep down, I knew he had been pushing me from the very start. And yet, some part of me, the part desperate to keep my marriage intact, clung to the hope that maybe he was right. Maybe this would be just a strange experiment, a fleeting moment that would pass, leaving us unchanged. I couldn't have been more wrong. Eric arranged everything. He said Darnell was excited to meet me, that he was cool and respectful. The way he talked about him made it sound like he was setting up a business deal rather than pushing his wife into the arms of another man. The night came too fast. I felt sick the entire day, my stomach in knots, my nerves on fire. I thought about backing out, but Eric was watching me closely, waiting. So I got dressed. Eric had suggested something revealing, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Instead, I settled on a simple black dress, nothing flashy. I was doing this for him, at least that's what I told myself. When we arrived at the hotel, Eric was giddy with anticipation. Darnell was already waiting in the lounge. Sipping a drink like this was just another Friday night. He was tall, muscular, and confident in a way that put me on edge. His dark eyes met mine, and I felt trapped, like prey caught in a hunter's gaze. Eric introduced us, his hand possessively resting on the small of my back. "She's a little nervous," he said with a chuckle, like this was some inside joke between them. Darnell smiled. "That's normal." His voice was deep,
steady.
He wasn't nervous at all. He had done this before. I sipped my drink, barely tasting it. My hands shook as the conversation carried on, but I wasn't really listening. My mind was screaming at me to leave, to get up and run. But Eric's grip tightened whenever I shifted, as if he could sense my hesitation. And then, after what felt like hours, we went upstairs. The hotel suite was dimly lit, the air thick with unspoken tension. Eric sat in the corner, his eyes burning with something I couldn't quite understand. Was it excitement? Jealousy? I stood there, frozen. Darnell stepped closer, his presence overwhelming. "You sure about this?" he asked. I should have said no. I should have walked out. But Eric's voice came from behind me. "She's fine." I wasn't. But it was too late. That night changed everything. I thought I could do this and walk away. That it would be a one-time thing, a mistake I could bury. But the moment it was over, I realized something terrifying. Eric wasn't the same. And neither was I. The ride home was silent. I sat in the passenger seat, staring blankly out the window, feeling hollow. Eric had his hands on the wheel, a small, satisfied smirk still playing on his lips. He seemed relaxed, almost proud. But I felt nothing but shame, confusion, and something else I couldn't quite name. I wanted to shower, to scrub the night off my skin, but no amount of soap would wash away what had happened. Eric tried to pull me into his arms when we got home, but I flinched. His touch, once familiar and comforting, now felt foreign.
Wrong.
"What's wrong?" he asked, frowning. I pulled away. "I just need some space." His eyes darkened. "You're acting weird." Weird? My entire world had just shattered, and he thought I was acting weird? I locked myself in the bathroom and sat on the floor, my knees pulled to my chest. The reality of the night weighed down on me like a heavy chain. I had done something I never wanted to do, something that felt so unnatural, yet Eric had watched with excitement. The worst part? I had seen something in his eyes I had never seen before. He enjoyed seeing me with someone else. The next few days were unbearable. Eric acted like nothing had changed, but everything had. I barely spoke to him, barely ate. At night, I turned away from him in bed, pretending to be asleep when he tried to touch me. Then, just when I thought I could start to move on from it, he dropped another bomb. I was thinking. He started casually over dinner one night. "What if we did it again?" The fork slipped from my fingers, clattering onto my plate.
What?
He leaned forward, eyes bright with anticipation. "You liked it, didn't you?" My stomach turned. "I hated it." Eric scoffed.
Come on. You can be honest with me.
"I saw how you reacted. I felt sick. My own husband was gaslighting me, trying to convince me that my own feelings weren't real." I pushed my chair back and stood. "I'm not doing this again." Eric's jaw tightened. "Don't be dramatic. It was just sex. Not to me." I stormed off to our bedroom, slamming the door behind me. My heart was racing, my hands trembling. I thought Eric loved me. I thought we had built something real. But now I was starting to see the truth. This wasn't about us. It was about him. He didn't suggest this to spice up our marriage. He suggested it because he wanted to see me with other men. And worst of all, I didn't think he would stop. That night, I made a decision. I needed to leave. Before he destroyed me completely. I started planning my escape that night. I couldn't stay with Eric, not after what he had done. Not after realizing the truth about who he really was. He didn't love me. He loved control. He loved watching me break myself for him. But leaving wouldn't be easy. We shared a home, finances, and a life. If I suddenly packed my bags and left, he would see it coming. He would try to stop me. So I played along. For the next few days, I forced myself to smile, to act like everything was fine. I let him believe I was warming up to the idea, even though it disgusted me. The way his face lit up when I didn't flinch at his touch made my skin crawl. But inside, I was counting down the hours until I could walk away. I opened a secret bank account and transferred what little savings I could without him noticing. I contacted an old friend and asked if I could stay with her. I made sure to gather my most important documents, my passport, my birth certificate, hiding them in my work bag, so he wouldn't suspect anything. Then, finally, I was ready. I had planned to leave one morning while he was at work, but fate had other plans. The night before, Eric brought up Darnell again. "We should invite him over this weekend," he said casually as we sat in the living room. "Maybe try something new." I clenched my fists, keeping my expression neutral. "Yeah, maybe." His grin widened. He thought he had won. That night, I waited until he fell asleep. Then I quietly grabbed my bags and slipped out the door. My heart pounded as I stepped outside, the cold air biting at my skin. I half expected him to wake up, to catch me in the act, but the house remained silent. I got into my car and drove away. I didn't look back. By the time the sun rose, I was in a new city, breathing air that didn't feel tainted by him. I turned my phone on to a flood of missed calls and messages. Eric's words started off confused, then angry, then desperate. "Where are you? What the hell is going on? Asterisk, you need to come back. Now, asterisk. Asterisk, we can talk about this. Please don't do this, asterisk." I didn't reply. I blocked his number, deleted our shared accounts, and disappeared. For weeks, I kept expecting him to show up, to find me, but he never did. Maybe he realized he had pushed me too far. Maybe he found someone else to manipulate. Or maybe he just couldn't stand the fact that, in the end, I was the one who left him. It took me a long time to heal, to accept what had happened. But I did. And now, when I look back, I don't feel shame anymore. I feel free.